Hi, Paul here. If you're having trouble with bar chords, it's probably because you're trying to get power from the wrong place. You might be trying to get the power that you need with your first finger from your palm. And I always say this is more like baseball, you know, how you grab a baseball bat. If you wanted more power on it, you'd use your palm and pretty much your whole arm to force your palm into the back of the fretboard. If you're doing this with your bar chords, you know, you're going about it in the wrong way. First of all, we need to bring your wrist down. So your wrist should be down. There should be a curl. I'll turn to the side. You should be curled here, like not up. This wrist should be down. So you've got space here to work with. And the space between the bottom of the fretboard and your palm, you know, there should be quite a bit of it. And your thumb is, I mean, my thumb, if I'm just doing a G chord here, G major, my thumb is lower than halfway down. Like anything tricky on guitar, anything that requires some kind of technique, thumb comes down, lots of space, arched wrist, lots of space here, and thumb for power. Push that thumb on the back, and it will give you the power that you need. So let's say you're already doing that and you're like, Paul, I'm pushing like crazy on the back and it still sounds like, and I can't get the notes to ring out. Well, that might be just because your fingers aren't in the right spots, or you're not curling your fingers enough. So let's just look at the fourth finger, the third and the second. If these fingers, when you're playing, let's say this G major shape on the third fret, are flat or flattening, you're gonna get, you know, dead strings where the notes aren't ringing out. So get your fingers up, curl them upwards as much as you can. Just absolutely, you know, feel yourself curling your fingers into the strings. And then the first finger. So let's talk about the bar. This is probably the most important part. If you have those other two steps down, it would be roll your first finger onto the bone. Like that's the hardest part of your first finger, so roll it onto the bone. You know, I know in the books sometimes it can look like, in the guitar books, it looks like the person's just got their finger like straight up like that, and it is, you can do it like that as well, but there's nothing to say that you can't roll your finger sort of diagonally onto the bone here, and even have your finger like at a sort of slight diagonal angle rather than straight up. Like you can be off to the side a little bit. You know, there's only sort of two ways to look at it, works and doesn't work. That's, you know, how I like to talk about it. So this works. Roll your finger onto the bone and then curl all your fingers upwards, push that thumb on the back, and you should get a perfect chord. If you don't, if you get, you know, then probably you've got the pressure distributed evenly across the lower strings with your first finger, but you don't have the pressure with the higher strings, which could mean that your first finger is too high. Sometimes people do a bar chord. Actually, I've seen this quite a bit. The first finger's too high, and like you're reaching too high, so you're not getting as much power from your first finger as you would if you just brought it down. So don't put your first finger too high over the last E string, bring it down, and you only need like the tip of your first finger over the low E string just to cover the string, and then you'll get more power from it rather than overreaching as if you have to have your first finger like way above the fret. You don't, just keep it there. So that should be it really. You probably get, you know, at first you might be halfway there where like you've got some of the strings, probably the low strings down, and then the high ones are harder to get. Just remember your technique, you know, that the power's not coming from strength necessarily, it's just coming from good thumb placement, and just pushing it on the back at the right spot. Like I said, like, you know, halfway down, or at least even further, like as low as you want to go, and then push the thumb, keep lots of space, and that's it. You should get a bar chord out of that, with the curled fingers and the first finger slightly angled and then rolled onto the bone and pushed down, pushing your thumb at the same time. You might get that kind of thing. like the high E string might be the last one to go where it's still buzzing. So bring that first finger down, keep the pressure even, squeeze your first finger, the bar across the frets at an angle, and push that thumb a little bit harder too if you need a bit more power. Thumb. Okay, so let's say you're already at this stage and you feel like you've got your major shape down, but the tricky part for you is when I move to another bar chord shape or another shape, I lose that pressure, like when you were first learning your open chords, you know, A and E and C. When you were switching chords, it probably sounded good at first, and then you moved, and then the next chord didn't sound very good because you lost the pressure. So it's just the same thing really. We need to maintain that pressure when we switch between shapes. So let's say we play a G shape, and then we move up 2 frets, and then we play A minor. We need to find ways to just keep that pressure in between. I'm going to keep my thumb low down at the back just like I did for G. Major or minor. And just keep your thumb in the same spot and roll that finger. My advice for that would be don't relax your hand too much when you move in between. Like, yeah, you have to let the pressure off as you move between the chords, but don't let it off so much that, you know, like it's almost like a surprise to you that you have to push everything back on again. Like, keep the pressure, you know. And then if you start feeling more comfortable with that, then I would go through these 5 shapes that I'll send over, and or I've already sent those. Those will be the first shapes to get over, you know, under the fingers, I should say. So like your major, minor, minor 7, dominant 7, those will be the first ones to start with, and then a sus chord would be nice too. And you're pretty much covered for, you know, for every situation with those 5 shapes. So really, if you're at that stage, you want to be able to go between all the shapes pretty easily, just moving 1 or 2 fingers. So major, take your second finger off, you get minor. You noticed I curled it down a little bit, I didn't let it fly off the strings. We don't want our fingers flying off the strings. Curl it downwards. Minor 7, we can lift off the little finger. If we put the second finger back, we get a G7, a dominant 7, and if we put the little finger on the 5th fret on the G string, we get sus. So I went kind of quick there, let me just go back. So G major, that'll be our first shape. If we take the second finger off and curl it down, we get G minor. Let's put the second finger back and take the little finger off, and we get G7. If we take the second finger off and the little finger off, we get G minor 7. That might be the hardest one, the G minor 7, because all I've got is a bar and my 3rd finger. So you might find like, whoa, I don't have as many fingers helping, you know, there's less of your teammates helping you out there, so there's just 2 fingers. So minor 7 will be definitely the test of, you know, do you have your bar chords down? And then we put a little finger back on the G string at the 5th fret, and then we've got a G sus. So I really hope this video helps you. Those will be the 5 shapes to get down and start moving in between. If you're just first starting on, you know, on bar chords now, or you've never really got the hang of them, you just feel like, you know, like you just couldn't even do the bar with the first finger, then I would definitely start with just doing 1 finger at a time. Just doing 1 string at a time, or maybe 2 strings at a time, where we sort of like that. You can do 2 at a time, you know, and then add 1 and just roll your finger over onto the bone and try and get a nice clean. Like, if you don't have that, I probably should have started with this, but if you don't have that down yet, that might be harder actually than, you know, doing it with all the other fingers. Actually, it is a little bit harder, so I would try and just do that first, you know, just go 2 strings at a time. or 3, 4, 5, and doing them all like that. Obviously, you know, if you do this at the first fret, it's going to be the hardest place to do it. So keep in mind, like if you're trying these bar chords at the first fret, it's not going to get any harder than that. You know, like if you're doing F major bar chords, that's as tricky as it's ever going to get, because it's getting easier as you move up the fretboard. That's why I started on the 3rd fret. Anyway, I hope this helps. If you feel like, you know, you're still lost, or I went too fast, or this is not useful to you, or anything, just let me know, because, you know, I'm here to help. So I'll send this video off to you right now.